Hello everybody, this is Aimless Gun, and today I'm going to be talking about a melee Dagger Ranger. This character was the #1 Ranger on Onslaught until I died at level 86 to Piety, and it was my fault and not really the fault of the build. The main attack for the build is Double Strike with Melee Splash. The reason to use Double Strike is because it's a Dagger build, you don't have very many options actually for area effect. Mainly you don't have Cleave. You do have Cyclone, but Cyclone is a little sketchy in hardcore because of the lack of control of your character and because of desync issues. Double Strike also suffers from some desync issues, but not as badly as Cyclone. And as you can see, the general gameplay of the character is you're kind of like a ninja. You're running, you're whirling, blazing around the battlefield, flicker striking around, and killing things in very close proximity. And so this is exciting, is also dangerous. You know, in hardcore. Jesus, these archers. In hardcore, exciting is not always a good thing, or probably often not a good thing. This is not a build where you can sort of fall asleep with a beer in your hand and play with one hand. This build is not going to keep you alive, you are going to keep yourself alive by intelligently knowing how to move around the battlefield, how to whirling blades out of bad situations, or how to flicker, things in the back. To attack the range enemies that are beating on you or something of that nature. Hopefully I'll find some interesting or difficult packs during this video, so I'm not just running around right-clicking on things. The build itself, the passive build, you start as a ranger. The ranger is going to be improved a lot in the next patch, but the basic layout of the build is not going to change. You're just going to basically get straight up buffed, and probably put more points into the starting area. That's why I'm making this video actually, in case anyone wants to know a viable ranger build for 11.2. This is one. So you kind of, right now you get out of the crappy ranger area pretty quickly, and you go down to Iron Reflexes, and then you go up north to the Dagger nodes. And you get kind of every health node you can on the way, and you get crit and attack speed in the Shadow Start. I was talking about the disadvantages of daggers before, where you can't cleave. Okay, holy crap. One weakness of this build, really hard-hitting physical enemies, aka golems. Be really freaking careful of golems. Especially on monster damage maps with extra fire damage and elemental weakness, holy crap. I don't like these things. Whoa! I've used all my potions stupidly. And I've accidentally put Enfeeble somewhere. Let's put Enfeeble back in my bars. This is going to help me. Anyways, I have to focus on actually fighting things for a while. Back to talking about the build. Daggers, yes, okay, you can't cleave with daggers. But daggers have just kind of higher DPS potential than any other weapon type because of crit. You can't, without crit, it's pretty hard to achieve like the maximum DPS you can achieve in this game, just because of how well it scales with itself and how well it scales with gear you can get. So you can get so much, crit and crit damage on gear, and in the tree that you can really achieve very high DPS. And the nice thing about using double strike splash is that you're also using a shield. So this is boosts your defense and kind of makes up for some defensive losses you have to invest in crit nodes and accuracy nodes at the expense of some defensive nodes. You can actually do this basically the same build with 2 daggers without a shield and dual strike splash, but the gain in DPS is not equal to the loss of defense. So in hardcore, probably not worth it. Though there is some guy in default or standard who has like a 60k DPS dual strike splash build. I think it's CI though. Speaking of CI, so as you can see, also this is a health build. CI is really popular right now in the new leagues because you can't get KM start. So this ends up meaning you can get way more ender shield than you can get life. Right now I have 4200 life. This is kind of standard. People are going to have between 4 and 5k life in Onslaught. unless you just go really overboard in the hit points. And you can get, you know, like 10k energy shield, but it takes good gear to get 10k, but you can get there. What is my fire resist with melee weakness? Oh, okay, it's actually good. And so life, there are a few advantages actually of being life over CI, even if you don't have as much raw hit points. One is that you're generally, good god, Molten Shell. Monster damage Molten Shell. One is that you're gonna have, not immunity, but you're gonna be very resistant to stuns and chills. And for CI, especially in Onslaught without Eye of Chula, you're gonna have to go all the way around to get Unwavering Stance to be immune to stun. This wastes so many of your points. You're going to end up, it's not a waste, quote unquote, but it's basically very expensive, and you're going to have less points to spend on other things, so nice things like DPS. And then chills, of course, CI is chilled basically forever, constantly. And even if you are in a league that has Eye of Chula, the opportunity cost of wearing Eye of Chula over a DPS amulet is huge, because an amulet it's probably the most loaded slot in terms of DPS stats other than your weapon. It has crit damage, it has crit, it has flat physical damage, possible on and accuracy as well. So using Eye of Chula is a huge loss in DPS. The other advantage of a life build is that you can use Life Gain on hit and Life Leech at the same time. So in a CI build you're using Ghost Reaver and you're leeching, but Life Gain on hit does actually not apply to Ghost Reaver. And so I have some Life Leech on my gear, and then I have a Life Gain on hit gem in socketed supporting dual strike, or double strike. And so this basically allows you to more than double your leech rate, to be honest, if you have a fast attack speed. Right now I have 13.5 attacks per second. This is on a 14.2 speed dagger, so if I had a faster dagger I could get up to around 17 attacks per second. That is 850 healing per second with my Life Gain on hit on one target. So if I'm AoEing, I'm getting, you know, anywhere from 2 to 4 or 5,000 healing per second. So anything except for a gigantic physical burst will kill you. Cough, golems, cough. Read the mods on rare golems, by the way. I've been hit for 3,400 by a rare golem with crit damage. But yeah, so as long as you're hitting things, it's pretty difficult to kill you with Life Gain hit running and Life Leech running as well. And try to get Life Leech. The shield I have, Press Apprentice, has some Life Leech, and if you can get a little bit of Life Leech on your gloves or rings or amulet, that's also very helpful. I'm probably not leeching, unless I'm AoEing a lot of enemies, I'm probably not capping out at my leech rate, which is 20% of your hit points per second. But it's still going to be a few hundred hit points per second to leech. Oh my god. Probably would have tried to do this in a group in Onslaught, to be honest. The auras I'm running for this character are Hatred, Purity, Determination, and Grace. Purity is probably the last one you'll add. Either that or Determination. Hatred is really, really great because it chills enemies, and if you crit them, it will freeze them. And of course, Determination, Grace combo with Iron Reflexes is a ton of armor. Massively increases your survivability, and Purity not only makes it easier to gear to reach the resist cap, but it gives you 4% max res at level 20, which is around 20% less damage from Elemental, which is really, really good. Then my utility attacks, Whirling Blades to move around, and Flicker Strike to just get on things. And there's a nice trick you can do with Flicker Strike where if you link it to Elemental Proliferation, if you hit something you'll proliferate your freeze on the crit, so you can see all these guys get frozen for a little mid-air shot there. Right now with the dagger I have 50% crit, and which means with the quality Flicker Strike I'm actually critting about 59% of the time. And so 59% of the time when I flicker into a group of enemies, unless I miss, which is a downside of using crit because you don't have RT. When I flicker into a group of enemies, it'll proc a freeze and potentially freeze a bunch of them. And then the curses are crit weakness is your DPS curse, and elemental weakness is enfeeble is your defensive curse. Crit weakness is pretty much amazing, but since you are investing a fair amount of your passives into offense, probably more than a lot of hardcore melee builds, you're going to be using enfeeble a lot, just because if you're, for example, if I invested all my passive points into defense, I'd use a DPS curse, but since I invested more into offense, I'm going to use a defensive curse most of the time. Yeah, Chaos Orb, nice. That default currency. Let's talk about gearing this character. So, the most important slot obviously is getting a decent dagger. My dagger is actually not that great, but it gets the job done. And what you want to look for obviously is high physical damage, and then crit chance. High crit is the more you're critting, the more you're freezing, and the more you're refreshing your flasks. Basically, crit is just very important, not just from a DPS standpoint, but from a utility and survival standpoint. Then attack speed is also really nice to have. Crit damage is nice to have. Accuracy is nice to have. Because you are crit build without resolute technique, you need accuracy. And you can get this on your weapon or your gloves, rings, amulet, or hat. And you're going to want it on at least 3 of these items in a pretty good amount. Otherwise, you're just going to be missing all the time. You're going to have like a 75% hit chance, and you're going to get frustrated with the build. I take a couple accuracy nodes also in the tree, but not as many. You don't need to take like a whole lot of accuracy nodes. Just get a couple. On your armor, other than the accuracy on the hat and the gloves, you're going to want life and resists, of course. And that's pretty much your priority everywhere on your chest and your boots and on your hat and gloves. For your shield, I'm actually still using Crest of Parandus, which is a shield you can get at level 8, but it's amazing because it gives you life leech, and it gives you a little bit of resist, and it gives you 40% block. And 40% block is incredibly amazing. Like nearly half the attacks that are coming your way, you're going to block. And this actually is such a huge benefit, this extra 10% block over other shields, that it's very difficult to replace Crest of Parandus. Lion Eye or Remorse is probably about even with it, I would rate. And if you get a really nice evasion shield with resist and life, like a 1500 plus evasion shield, that would also be better. In general, you want evasion in all of your gear. Because of the way Iron Reflexes works, your evasion rating gets buffed by your dexterity before it gets converted to armor. So having evasion gear is better than having armor gear. The one exception to this is on your chest. The ideal link combination is actually 4 reds and 1 green, which is nearly impossible to get, especially on a 5 lane, nearly impossible to get on pure evasion armor. So but it's very easy to get on evasion armor chest pieces. And just go over the links in my 5 link right now. You have double strike, Lycan hit, splash, multi-strike, and faster attacks. And so in the optimal configuration with 4 reds, you would have melee physical damage instead of faster attacks. Oh, I got a call on that. Nice. The weaknesses of this build, I'm going to roll this call out while I keep talking. The weaknesses of this build, as I talked about earlier, is large physical hits. They kind of bypass your armor, and since you have not as much raw hit points as the CI build, you can get bursted down by large physical hits. So be careful with golems, be careful with Brutus, and things of that nature. Other than that, chaos damage. If you don't have good chaos resist, which is difficult to get while you're trying to chase this accuracy, while you're trying to chase life and other resists, it's difficult to get chaos resist. But so before you get that, chaos damage, especially chaos alchemist, is going to be super dangerous.
Still breathing, eh?
And it's more dangerous than if you were a ranged build, say, because you're constantly the front line, so you're constantly the target of your enemy's attention. This will come into play if you're playing in a party. You know, even if you're playing in a party where the enemies have other things to attack, you're the first guy into the fray, And so the monsters are all going to go after you before they go after your party members. Let's see if I can get a half-decent colonnade here. Colonnade? Wow, that's a really good... Oh. Monster damage and damage to lightning again. Good thing... yeah. What else is there to talk about? Yeah, playing in a party, because you're very mobile with Whirling Blades and Flicker Strike, you can keep up with the party pretty well. Your DPS is pretty good and useful. Right now I have 12k DPS self-buffed. In a party with all the buffs, you can get around 15k with my gear. Holy shit, okay. What is going on in this map? Hey guys, play this build in hardcore, you're gonna randomly die. Yeah, as I said before, this build is exciting. You're gonna want to keep your fingers pretty close to your soothing flasks. Also, probably not, you know, try to film a narrative video at the same time. But yeah, with a nice dagger and good gear at level 90, I projected to have around 20,000 DPS self-buff on a 6-link. Switches, you can get better, but I think it's still pretty decent, especially for a build with a shield, and that's also a melee build. Also to watch out for desync. As long as you're hitting things and not getting stunned or frozen, your massive life gun hit healing is going to be able to keep you up. But if you're desynced and not hitting things, then you're going to die. And it's important to keep moving around the battlefield, to keep on attacking things, and to not stand in dangerous stuff or not be constantly hit by like range enemies. Or especially in your party, like this is one thing you can do really well, is to get into the back with Flicker and attack stuff like this Necro. I'm getting a Viper Strike stack, that's terrible.